Okay, good afternoon. This is Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo. Happy to be here with you on Thursday, September 23rd at 3 p.m. I'm joined by my colleague, the esteemed Marquise Harris Dawson. My colleague, Mr. Krikorian, Paul Krikorian, is not available. He is recusing himself for a particular vote, and so therefore is not available for us. Madam Clerk, would you like to call the meeting to order?
Calling the roll to begin the meeting for the Housing Committee, Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo here.
Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Present.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have a quorum.
Do we have public comment?
I will proceed to read the instructions for public comment. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 160-871-1866 and then press the number sign. Press the number sign again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak.
Mr. Chairman, we can proceed with the public comment portion. So I'm going to go forward and ask caller ending in 4024. You may press *6 to unmute. Hello, caller ending in 4024. Please press.
Am I on?
Yes, please.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead. Yes,
hey,
you are.
asshole, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
I want to speak on all items in public comment, asshole. Is that okay?
Okay, 3 minutes. Thank you.
3 minutes. Okay. Mr. Cedillo, why are you raising the rents from half to double? Knowing that majority of people, like myself, a wetback, can't afford to pay the rent when we can't work. I just got through speaking at Janice Hahn's office. They said we're not going to start opening up business until April of next year, 2021. That kind of sounds suspicious, kind of the bullshit that the governor, Gavin Newsom, has been doing, keeping us deactivated from working. Don't you people want us to pay our taxes? Hello, are you there? Don't you listen? Are you fucking stupid? Don't you want us to pay taxes so you can give yourselves a raise the way the boss, Jose Huizar, kept giving himself raises and buying $400 shoes and $1,000 suits? I'm just kidding. After all, the FBI was just kidding too, assholes. But anyways, also, due to COVID pandemic, the scary thing about the COVID pandemic, it's an airborne disease, kind of like Jose Huizar, a maggot. Stop it, asshole. Tell him what you're supposed to say. Okay, relax. Is Wayne Stiller in the meeting? Because I asked him to ask you, Cedillo, when are you going to take out the blight from our community here in Silver Lake? You know, there's a lot of homeless people living with COVID-19, and they haven't died. So why can't we open to full capacities so jackass attorneys from Mike Fear's office can help you guys do criminal activities with the rest of us jackasses? Is Rico there? No, not Rico. I mean Rico, like in racketeering. Hey, is it true that Current Price has 2 wives, or is the bigamist still planning to marry the first wife all over again? Or wait a minute, does Miss Current Price, not Current Price, Adele Price, does she still have her house, or does she go 50-50 with you, Mr. Current Price? Cedillo, help the man out. Fucking nigger can't do his math. Now for my general public comment, asshole. Vote for Trump. Trump will solve all our problems, and he's very manageable at getting us back to work. Not like that jackass, Gavin Newsom, who created all these fires and has all this Sodom and Gomorrah ash burning all over fucking houses and cars and streets. And in addition to that, where the fuck is Jose Huizar? Why isn't he there to participate? Are you that fucking stupid? I want to know where Jose Huizar's at. Because when Kevin De Leon from San Diego, that wetback, gets into his shoes, wait, here it comes
Thank you, ma'am.
again.
Your time is up.
Thank you so much for that. Can we go to the next public comment?
Yes, speaker ending in 1108. Please state your name. Press *6 first to unmute.
Yeah, hi, it's Daniel Guess. I just want to speak on general public comment.
Okay,
Mr. Cedillo,
1 minute.
Yeah, Mr. Cedillo should not be surprised by the derogatory comments that the last caller made or anything, because this committee's issues last week, somebody not a regular with City Council was criticizing something that Mr. Cedillo had put forth, and Mr. Cedillo, on an open mic, said, and I quote, during a meeting last week, F you. Now, Mr. Cedillo, your sarcasm about it is completely warranted because they spill it at you, but it's a lose-lose situation. If you don't want to apologize to the public for saying F you to legitimate criticism, not by a City Council regular, you are basically giving carte blanche to everybody else to say F you and far worse things to you and to your peers and to city employees. You are supposed to be above it. But if you're not, don't be surprised when you get calls like that or calls about family members. If you say F you to the public, believe me, the gadflies are going to take it and run with it. It's food for thought, and I brought this to your...
You have 10 seconds.
Yep,
You
thank
have
you.
10
And
seconds.
you should be, Mr. Cedillo, do not interrupt me, or I will make an ethics complaint about you for that comment and for interrupting me
Your
during
time
this
is
time.
up. I think this afternoon. And let me clarify, I did not make that comment. I was making a quote, unattributed quote. It's not my comment. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker. Yes, speaker ending in 8219. Please press *6 to unmute.
Hello, this is Greg Spiegel with the Inner City Law Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I want to speak on item number 3 in general public comment. On behalf of Inner City Law Center, we're requesting that the Housing Committee approve the SCEP fees, but 100% of the fees should be paid by landlords, not passed through to tenants. It makes sense that SCEP needs a fee increase. The city needs a strong, proactive, systematic code enforcement program, and fees haven't increased since 2012. And so without the fee increase, we can see how the program would go downhill and we'd lose all the gains that SCEP created, including improving the housing stock and preventing a lot of slums. However, landlords should pay 100% of the fees. As a regulated industry, landlords should pay for SCEP. Typically, regulated industries pay the fees. For instance, in the lead poisoning prevention program in the state, the lead industry pays the fees that fund the state and county lead poisoning prevention programs. Likewise here, landlords should pay for the fees. Landlords benefit from the program, and they've said so. As part of the city's 2009 economic study of the RSO, there was a survey of landlords in which 60% of landlords reported that they benefit from SCEP. And that's on page 161 of the study. Most urgently, tenant incomes have been decimated by the pandemic. Imposing a fee increase of only $6 a month on tenants who are already being forced to choose between food and healthcare and housing will push many beyond the brink. Now is not the time for more fee increases on tenants. Also recognize there's a squeeze on smaller landlords, and perhaps propose that you pass the fee increase but postpone implementation into a later date, such as the lifting of the city's emergency order, so that the fees can go through at some time in the future and not have to go through this process again and maybe put the SCEP program in uncertainty for a long period of time. Finally, council should make explicit in the LA Municipal Code that SCEP fees are not rent and must not be the basis for eviction. This happens sometimes. Some judges don't realize it's not rent. Some landlords evict based on it, and tenants leave without ever contesting it. So make explicit in the code that SCEP fees aren't rent, and so failure to pay the SCEP fees is...
Oops, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for your call. I'm going to go to the next speaker, ending in 7384. Please press *6 to unmute. And
Hi, this is Beverly.
Go ahead.
This is Beverly Kenworthy, and I'd like to speak on item number 3.
Okay, 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Beverly Kenworthy with the California Apartment Association. We absolutely oppose implementing number 3 at this time, the SCEP fee increase. We actually, unlike the last caller, we believe that tenants nor landlords should be subject to a new fee. Many owners are hurting just as much as renters are. We have many owners who are at risk of losing their buildings, and unlike tenants, who this would just be a fee per unit, this would be cumulative for owners. So it would be much more than just one unit. They would have to pay these on all of their units. So we absolutely oppose this at this time. We think that the city should really revisit their SCEP program. We believe there are some great examples across the state where 100% of inspections is not considered a reasonable goal or an efficient use of funds. We know that the overwhelming majority of our buildings get excellent inspections, and those buildings, if they get a certain number of good inspections, we think you could have a 2-tiered system on, times between inspections, or you could do a random sample of a building. Excuse me?
Please complete your comments.
I am. We believe that you could do a random sample of the building. So that would, I think, achieve the same goal of, keeping owners on top of their maintenance and code enforcement issues. So thank you very much. Please
thank you. I'd like to call a speaker's caller ending in 5942. Please press *6 to unmute. Please state your name and which item you'd like to speak on.
Hi, my name is Savannah Walker with Neighborhood Housing Services of LA County, and I'd like to speak on item number 3.
Okay, 1 minute.
Yes, like the previous caller stated, I would like to urge the committee to approve SCEP fees increase by 100, but 100% of the fees should be paid by landlords and not passed through to tenants. It makes sense that SCEP fees need to be increased. The city needs a strong, proactive system code enforcement program, a fee increase that makes sense when there hasn't been one since 2012. However, landlords should pay 100% of this fee. As the regulated industry, landlords should pay for SCEP. Typically, the regulated industry pays for the fees. For instance, with lead poisoning, like the previous caller said, with lead poisoning prevention, the lead industry pays the fees that fund the state and county lead poisoning prevention programs. In this case, landlords are the regulated industry. The inspections ensure that landlords comply with state and local habitat laws. In addition, the council should make it explicit in the LA Municipal Code that SCEP fees are not rent and must not be based for evictions. Currently, the LA Municipal Code is not explicit about whether the fee is rent. Some landlords seek evictions based on unpaid SCEP fees as if it were rent. Some judges catch it and dismiss the case of action. Other judges don't catch it, and we don't know how many times tenants move without fighting the eviction because they don't know that SCEP fees aren't rent. Making it explicit in the code could help minimize these improper evictions. And I'll yield my time.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker, caller ending in 3829. Please press *6 to unmute. Caller ending in 3829, please press *6 to unmute. Thank you. Please state your name and which item.
Hi, this is Danielle Leidner-Pratt with the Apartment Association of Greater Los Angeles. I would like to speak on item number 3.
Okay, 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. We strongly oppose the advancement of a 88% fee increase to the SCEP fee. An increase of this magnitude would be extremely problematic during the best of times, let alone during a historic pandemic. We urge the committee to direct HSID to conduct a further program evaluation with a focus on the programmatic structure and options to maintain the program at the current funding level. We recommend that the evaluation include consideration of the following potential modifications: inspecting a sampling of the buildings instead of all units, instituting a sliding scale fee structure whereby higher fees are charged per unit that have a history of violations, extending inspection cycles from 4 to 6 years. These are some programmatic features that are included in other jurisdictions who have strong similar programs. Thank you for your time and consideration of these matters.
Thank you. The next speaker, caller ending in 0240. Please press *6 to unmute. And please state your name and which item.
John Parks, and I'd like to speak on item number 3.
Okay, 1 minute. Thank you.
My name is John Parks, and I work with the Coalition for Economic Survival. While SCEP fees may need to be increased, it can't be on the backs of financially strapped renters who are struggling to pay rent because of the pandemic. This fee is crucial to ensuring that our housing is habitable and safe, and the city needs a robust code enforcement program in order to prevent slum conditions and displacement of Angelenos. But to ensure equity, as with the rent registration fee, the SCEP fee must be equally split between tenants and landlords. The economic situation of tenants across the city has worsened throughout the pandemic, and if tenants were ordered to pay the full fee, this would lead to further debt and evictions. SCEP was established to ensure landlords maintain their properties. However, tenants should not be forced to pay the fee for a program which landlords also benefit from. It is unjust and makes no sense that the entire burden of that fee rests on the shoulders of tenants. Considering how many thousands of renters are out of work, a full fee option would push many beyond the brink. And we strongly urge your support for the CIO's option number 2 to split the fee 50-50 between tenants and landlords. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, caller ending in 3392. Please press *6 to unmute. And please state your name and which item.
Hi, my name is Carlos Carrick. I'm calling about item 3.
Okay, 1 minute. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for hearing me out. I'm basically calling to say that as owners, we're imperative part as partners with the city and our renters. It's really unfair that any increase would be placed on the backs of the owners to go on ahead and proceed and maintain. The owners themselves, again, a very, imperative part of the city. And again, we partner and, with the renters in the city, and it shouldn't be on the backs of the owners. And the increase during the time of a pandemic when it's hard, not only on renters or the city, but also the owners as well, where they're barely able to go on ahead and make things, especially when it's understood that, they're taking a loss during this time. So I urge and I ask that you guys reconsider that and not place that increase on the owners. Thank you.
Thank you. Caller ending in 1403. Please press *6 to unmute.
Hello, it's me, Gil. All fucking items and general fucking public comment.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Yes. So, to quote the great Gil Cedillo, item 1, fuck you. We don't want to buy county shit properties in CD 8 and 9. Nobody wants to live there. Let's buy vacant lots in CD 4, 5, and 11. Let's give people a chance to live with these rich white motherfuckers. Now you got item 2, and that's Marchese, sleazy again, trying to do the roller Curtis West spot bus. To quote the great Gil Cedillo, fuck you, no on item 2. Now I get to item 3. What do we do with that? Well, to quote the great Gil Cedillo, fuck you to housing and community development, fuck you to the staff, and fuck you to this fucking proposal. We don't need and we will not allow any of these fee increases. It cannot be afforded by the landlord. It cannot be afforded by the tenant. And Jose Weezer called me this morning. That's right. And he said, fuck you on item 3. I'm against it. Thank you, Mr. Weezer. And thank you, Mr. Cedillo. And a shout out to Mitchell Englander as well. He also opposes item 3. And developer Maury also opposes item number 3. And, you know, am I on my general yet, nigga? How much time I got? See, when now you see what happens when a black man like me call. They don't tell me shit. I don't have no watch. Niggas got no watch. So again, did Gil Cedillo say fuck you? Yeah. And he quoted the Bible when he was doing it. That's right. Jesus said, fuck you to the Jews. Stop stealing all that motherfucking money and get out of my temple, you Jew motherfuckers. That is in the King James Bible. Gil, very religious. He's saying fuck you to the developers. Fuck you to the staff. Fuck you to COVID. Fuck you to wearing masks. We want our motherfucking businesses opened up, and we want Dan Gus to come back online and get his 24 seconds. Gil says, fuck you to that. But I say, fuck you to the person running the clock. You give that white woman an extra 9 seconds, but you don't give niggas a goddamn second to talk. You hung up on me before, too, Phil. I was the first caller, and they hung up on me, and now...
Okay, we're going to go to the next caller, ending in 3829. Press star 6 to unmute. State your name and which item. Caller ending in 3829. Moving on to caller ending in 1404. Please press star 6 to unmute. 1403. 1404, yes. Go ahead.
Hello, my name is Fred Sutton, calling on behalf of the California Apartment Association. Honorable Counsel, thank you for your time and deliberating on this issue. Item number 3 is what I'm calling about. Sorry.
Okay,
item number 3. It is not a binary choice between raising the SCEP fee or facing a poor performing inspection program. We all have the same shared goals for safe and habitable housing. The question is, should council at the very least look at alternative models that could have significant cost savings that will not be impacting both tenants and housing providers during one of the worst economic crises I think any of us have ever seen? There were several models highlighted in the DAE report that should be looked at further that could reduce costs. They were mentioned earlier on the call. I'm not going to belabor them, but you could extend cycles for those with good compliance records or raise fees on those that have poor compliance records. But raising the fee without looking at other models that can ensure safe and habitable housing should not go forward at this time. Thank you for your consideration and your time on this issue.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that does clear the queue.
Very good. Madam Clerk, are we ready to proceed with the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Would you like me to read item number 1?
Yes, please.
Item number 1 is a Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department report and City Administrative Officer 2 report relative to authority to purchase 7 parcels in tax default from the County of Los Angeles for the development of affordable housing.
Can we hear from the CAO?
Good afternoon, council members. Marilee Orellana Farias from the CAO's office. With your permission, I'd like to read the recommendations of the CAO report dated September 18 into the record.
Yes, we would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Okay. The recommendations read that the council, subject to the approval of the mayor, 1. Adopt recommendations 2A and C of the Housing and Community Investment Department transmittal dated September 1st, 2020, relative to the purchase of 7 parcels in tax default from the County of Los Angeles for the development of affordable housing. And 2, authorize the controller to A, establish a new account entitled 43T909 NSP CRALA parcel within the Neighborhood Stabilization Program 3, Fund Number 53T, and transfer appropriations as follows. From account numbers 43N806, account name NSP HSID Program Delivery in the amount of $174,877.15, and from account 43N467 entitled Slauson Wall Green Space in the amount of $1,025,122.85 for a total of $1,200,000 to account 43T909 NSPCRA LA parcel in the amount of $1,200,000, and B, increase appropriations in the amount of $1,025,122.85 in the Neighborhood Stabilization Program 2, Fund Number 52J, account number 43N467 Slauson Wall Green Space from revenue received within Fund Number 52J, Revenue Source Code Number 4973, Program Income. Thank you.
Council members, I would like to make a brief comment about this report.
Please go ahead.
Helmi Heserick with the Housing and Community Investment Department. And I want to thank you and share with you some information that has happened since this transmittal was received. We were notified by the city attorney last week that the seller's representative may cure the tax default for these properties, in which case this acquisition would not occur. It would be moot. We're still recommending the approval of the funds so that we can preserve our right to purchase in the event that they do not cure their tax default. But, we wanted to have the funds available. I also wanted to just share with you that this has been we're at the tail end of a year-long experiment that the department has conducted to figure out whether purchasing properties from LA County tax default made sense. Last August, we scoured the county records and looked at about 253 properties. We came forward with a recommendation to request the opportunity to purchase about 8 of the sites. And since then, one of those sites fell out. And we have also worked closely with the LA County tax assessor and the LA County supervisors to approve our right to purchase, as well as the state controller to get approval to purchase. So it's taken quite a bit of time and effort. We worked with HUD to identify appropriate source of funds to acquire our property out of tax default, which we've got approval to do. And at the end of the day, it's been a lot of work. We think that this is a very uncertain process. There are some perception problems that we've encountered along the way, which really we think makes it undercuts the value of going through this. And so even though we are pleased to make the recommendation here, particularly because these properties are in we have a loan against these properties that is in default in our loan portfolio. So there's logic to us continuing with this acquisition. I just wanted to share with you that we will be not likely to continue pursuing properties through the Chapter 8 sales process because it's really quite labor intensive and very, very uncertain.
I concur with you. I agree with you. I appreciate updating on us on that. People in the public think that this is a real easy thing to do, much like eminent domain. It's easy to look at the surface, but once you have to actually execute these types of programs, we find out that it's a lot more complicated than people think, and probably not as profitable in many instances. And so I appreciate the report, and I'm prepared to move the item forward.
Thank you.
Would you like me to call the roll, Mr. Chair?
Yes, so we're going to adopt the recommendations from the CAO report.
Calling the roll for item number 1, Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Krikorian is absent. Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Affirmative.
2 ayes. The CAO report is adopted. For item number 2, we have a Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department report and resolution, and a City Administrative Officer 2 report relative to authority to reissue tax-exempt multifamily conduit revenue bonds for the Roland Curtis West Apartments.
So can we have the CAO read into the record its recommendations?
Good afternoon, Emily Zen Cervantes from the Office of the CAO. So our recommendations are that the council, subject to the approval of the mayor, 1, adopt the resolution attached to the CAO report dated September 18, 2020, authorizing the reissuance of up to $22 million in tax-exempt multifamily conduit revenue bonds for the Roland Curtis West Apartments project. And 2, authorize the general manager of the Housing and Community Investment Department or designee to negotiate and execute the relevant bond documents for the project, subject to the approval of the city attorney as to form. And those are recommendations.
Any comment from staff?
This is Andre Perry with HZLA. I'm the manager of the tax exempt bond unit. You have the report in front of you. I also have Bruce Ortiz, who is the financial development officer lead on this project. This request is made as a result of additional resources that were made available to the project, Roland Curtis West. I believe the committee will recall that a motion was made on June the 2nd with respect to providing additional resources as a result of cost overruns to the project. As a result of those changes, per Internal Revenue Code, a new bond reissuance is required in order for us to proceed with the transaction. We're available if the committee has any questions with respect to the item before it.
Recommendations. We prepared to adopt the recommendations. Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Just to clarify, Mr. Chair, would that be the recommendations in the CAO report and its accompanying resolution?
Yes, correct.
Calling the roll for item number 2, Councilmember Cedillo.
Cedillo, aye.
Councilmember Krikorian is absent. Councilmember Harris Dawson.
Yes.
2 yeses. Item number 2 is adopted. For item number 3, we have a City Administrative Officer and Los Angeles Housing and Community Investment Department reports and ordinance relative to authority to amend Section 161.352 of the Los Angeles Municipal Code for a fee adjustment to the Systematic Code Enforcement Program fee.
Okay, are we going to hear from the department or the CAO, or are we prepared to go forward with discussion?
You can proceed with the discussion, Mr. Chair.
Well, I see alternative 2 may be something that we could fashion, but frankly, this is the worst time, period. And so I'm not prepared to move any fee increases neither on tenants nor landlords at this moment. I think we'll have to look and monitor the situation. I think some recommendations were put forth, best practices throughout other jurisdictions that we could perhaps adopt. But the fact of the matter is that we are in this pandemic. I don't anticipate us getting back anywhere near normal for at least 12 months. And so at this time, I don't think it would be prudent for us to suggest that we raise fees at this moment. Mr. Harris-Dawson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Certainly appreciate your sensitivity, empathy, and leadership on this issue. I concur with you that it's a terrible time to raise fees, particularly as it relates to rent, which in many cases tenants are not paying and landlords are not collecting. And there's nothing in the law that stops us from reconsidering this when we get to a more stable time. There's one thing I would like for us to hear about later. I would just love to hear what the innovations have been in the home inspection program writ large. And so, do we still have a system that requires a human being from the city to go to an apartment? Can tenants report with their cell phone into a database that may tee an apartment up for a random check? It seems like there's a lot of technology these days, and I'm purely curious about how we're using that to make our inspection program more efficient and really serve the tenants and neighborhoods in a more expeditious manner. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll concur with your opinion.
Yes, we should move towards smart inspections, I guess people would say. Yes, sir.
Daniel Gomez, Housing Department. When the City Council enacted the Housing Code and established the Systematic Code Enforcement Program, the idea was to create a program that would regulate rental housing and be self-funded by rental housing providers and tenants. And the department advocates adoption of the CAO's report, option number 2. Without adopting that option, the department would have to cut back severely all the services that we do provide. Services such as our regular periodic inspection, our complaint inspection program, our home sharing ordinance enforcement, our urgent repair program. All of these programs, including the tenant relocation assistance program, are SCEP-funded programs. And so the department does recommend adopting the CAO report, option number 2. We do understand the problems the pandemic has caused in tenants. However, that could be handled as a separate matter. We would like to have the fee enacted, and then perhaps if the pandemic continues, as you suggest, there would be another way to grant relief.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. This is Emily Zen-Cervantes from the Office of the CAO. I also wanted to comment that based on the analysis that HCID conducted and our office reviewed, any delay in the fee increase would actually end this year, and trying to maintain the current service level for SCEP could result in the program being subsidized by another fund. So if they don't increase the fees, they won't have enough revenue to pay for the current service level. So by the end of this fiscal year, they'll be in the hole. And so another fund would have to subsidize them, and that could be the general fund. And as you may be very well aware, the general fund is also not in a good situation. So our office is recommending that all special funds be full cost recovery. And at this point, without a fee increase, the SCEP program and the SCEP fee is not fully recovering the cost of the program at its current service levels. So choose to move to adopt the CAO's option number 2 to provide some relief to tenants, but any either no fee increase or any reduction in the proposed fee increase would result in some subsidy for the program from another source of funding, including the general fund.
Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. Both the council member and I are fully cognizant of this and the challenges this will pose for the department, but we may have to think about maybe going back to budget to address these concerns. And I would suggest maybe, I don't know, maybe in 6 months you come back to us with another look back at the situation. Okay? Is there a form of motion, Mr. Harris Dawson, you want to put forward? Let's say that we'll hold this in committee. Affirm, Mr. Harris Dawson? Okay. So we will hold this. Okay. We're going to hold this item in committee and look to come back in, let's say, 6 months. Madam Clerk, any other items before us?
There are no further items before us, Mr. Chair.
Is there a motion to adjourn? Without objection? I thank you. Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.